What's up, Dragon Brood? We are now on day 5 of Kamigawa previews, and it's January 31st, and it's Monday, which means we have a whole lot of cards to talk about. They kept it pretty light over the weekend. I think we had like a 5-card preview day or something, and another one that only had like, I don't know, what was it, like 15 or 18 cards? So we have a lot today to talk about and discuss, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting. As always, I try to do my best not to look at them, so you're going to get my initial impressions in these videos. So some things will be far-fetched while we try to just guess some things with it. Others will be all out in left field. But the fun part is we get to look at them and learn all at the same time. So let's go get into today's previews. All right, our first card today is Iganjo. Actually, Iganjo Uprising? That's actually a pretty interesting name. So it's X red white for a sorcery. Create X 2/2 white samurai creature tokens with vigilance. They gain menace and haste until end of turn. Each opponent creates X -1 2/2 white samurai creature tokens with vigilance. So this is kind of cool, right? You spend, let's say, 4 mana, right? You make 2 2/2s, your opponent makes 1. Yours have a haste in addition to... No, yours have haste and menace. Theirs have vigilance. That's so strange. Like, and I mean, and I guess you could spend, it scales or whatever. So you can spend 8 and then your opponent gets 7 or whatever. But the interesting thing is, this still kind of works as a kill card because yours have menace and haste. So for every 2 they get, they can only block 1 of yours. This card is really interesting and peculiar. Also more interesting that we've seen a lot of cards over the last couple days where it seems like there's going to be some red-white samurai-ish deck that wants to attack with single copies of things. So I'm not sure if these go into the same type of deck. So it looks like maybe these colors are going to have a couple of different ways to attack the same style of deck, but maybe have a different mode to attack the game. But yeah, this is weird. Like, you have to pay attention to all the keywords to really draw out what this card's doing, but it's kind of an X-Spell kill card in a way. Even more so if you have something that cares about creatures dying or creatures enter the battlefield, that gives you bonuses. So yeah, this card might actually be all right. All right, we've got 2 colorless and a white for a 3/2 legendary creature human samurai called Norika Yamazaki the Poet. I wonder if these characters are all supposed to be related. Has vigilance. Whenever a samurai or a warrior you control attacks alone, well, see, we were just talking about this. You may cast target enchantment card from your graveyard this turn. So that's actually pretty sweet, being able to get enchantments back, especially since we have all those sagas that are doing stuff. So that could be pretty cool too. So yeah, this one's just neat. It's quality uncommon. You can play it in aggro deck. Anything taking advantage of enchantments. It's a vigilance creature as well, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, just kind of a neat little interesting filler card. All right, we have Brilliant Restoration. 3 and 4 white mana. So 3 white for a sorcery. Return all artifact and enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yeah, like this is just like if this deck becomes a real thing, the enchantment deck with all the enchantment creatures or whatever, because remember, this set has quite a few creatures that are going to be enchantments as well. So this could be a very powerful card, especially a good way to recover from sweepers and other things. There's bound to be a lot of stuff you can do with this. So definitely looking forward to playing this card. Honestly, it costs 7, so it's not cheap, but it's also not a card you want till late game anyway. So you probably only play 1 or 2 of these in your deck, hoping not to get them until like you have 8, 10, 11 mana. Several things have had a chance to go to the graveyard. Or maybe you're filling your graveyard and then using this as well. But yeah, I think this card's actually pretty decent. All right, we have Invoke Justice. 1 colorless and 4 white mana for a sorcery. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then distribute 4 +1/+1 counters among any number of creatures and or vehicles target player control. Ooh, so this one's actually pretty cool that it's a reanimator spell, but for any permanent that's in your graveyard, and then you get to put 4 +1/+1 counters on things on your side of the field. I mean, technically, I guess you could put them on opponent stuff because it says target player, but I doubt you're going to. So yeah, this I dig. I'm actually up for this. I think this is pretty cool. Now, it does say then distribute 4+1/+1 counters among any number of creatures and or okay, yeah, you still target the player, so I guess it wouldn't matter if there you had nothing, you could still target yourself, and there's nothing to distribute. So yeah, this is a quality card. Now, how does it compare to the other invoke cards we've seen so far? I don't really know, but just on itself seems actually pretty strong. Maybe even in that like attack with a single creature type samurai deck could be neat too, because you can load up one thing that you're smacking your opponent with. So I don't know. Don't know if we have enough of a picture of what the deck looks like that this would go in, but I do have a feeling this is a card that can be played for sure. Oh my goodness. Okay, this has a lot of text. So Mech Titan Core, 2 colorless for a 2/4 artifact vehicle. You pay 5, you exile this and 4 other artifact creatures and or vehicles you control to create Mech Titan, a legendary 10/10 construct artifact creature token with flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink, and haste. That's also all colors. When that token leaves the battlefield, return all the cards exiled with Mech Titan Core except for Mech Titan Core itself to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control. So this is actually a pretty sweet card, right? Okay, so you get a 2/4 vehicle you can crew for 2, which means almost all your stuff will be able to crew this. So that's actually pretty nice. But when you get to 5, and actually it doesn't look like you even have to play this as a sorcery, so it's kind of sweet. You could do this during your opponent's end step, possibly. But, so you sacrifice this and 4 other artifact creatures and or vehicles. So if you're playing a vehicle deck, not a problem. You will need some number of artifact creatures. So it can't just be artifacts. But the cool part is you're basically making a Voltron. Like, this is the centerpiece, and then you're getting, whatever, the 2 legs and the arms and turning them into a giant 10/10 mech. And then the cool part is, if the mech dies, you at least get the other 4 pieces back. You don't actually get the Mech Titan Core. But flavor-wise, this is actually a pretty sweet card. I kind of like what it's doing. This is a neat thing. And it's completely unique. Probably will end games making a 10/10 out of nowhere, an RKO, if you will. But yeah, this seems like a lot of fun. I actually like this card. Is it any good? I don't know. We'll see how good. I think this card is good if the vehicle decks are already good, right? Because here's another interesting thing is you could, assuming you have artifact creatures and not vehicles, because vehicles you don't lose to a sweeper necessarily, but you could actually sacrifice in response to be able to make the 10/10, let stuff get broken, and then you still have your other artifact creatures, depending on what the deck ends up looking like. So there's that too. So I don't know. Yeah, cool stuff all around though on this card. I kind of dig it. The title made me want to review this one because it means it has something to do with the vehicle deck, so I figured it was worth talking about. But Born to Drive, 2 colorless and a white for an aura, enchant an artifact or a creature. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it gets +1/+1 for each creature and or vehicle you control. It has channel where you can pay 2 colorless and a white, discard Born to Drive, create 2 1/1 colorless pilot creature tokens with this creature crews vehicles as those powers 2 greater. Okay, this card's good. This card for real has to be playable for a lot of reasons. One, if you have vehicles and you just get them crewed, you can just discard this, boom, you have basically 6 power worth of crew. That's pretty strong. You put it on something, that creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control, which means this could also be played in just regular creature decks. So mono white aggro could play something like this. So a creature gets bigger for the number of creatures you control. And then worst case scenario, you turn it into 2 1/1s, maybe if you have a kill turn or something that you're setting up for. So this card will find uses somewhere, for sure. Translation of this is Otawara Heavenly City, Legendary Land. Tap for a blue. It has channel, pay 3 and a blue, discard this card. Return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. This ability costs 1 less for each activated, or to activate for each legendary creature you control. This is just quality. Just could be anywhere 4 or less to basically bounce permanent from your opponent's side. Yeah, I don't really have a problem. I mean, it says owner's control, so it didn't even say opponent. So it could be your own stuff if you want to reset things. So I don't hate that either. Overall, pretty solid card. I think all these channel abilities on these lands are just really good. And remember, channel is something that your opponent can't easily counter either. I don't know if this is any good, but it's definitely cool looking. Satsuki, the Living Lore. A green and a white for a 1/3. You can tap it, put a lore counter on each saga you control, activate only as a sorcery. Oh, that's cool. So you can like advance up your sagas. That's kind of neat. And then when it dies, you choose one, or up to one. Return target saga or enchantment creature from your, or saga or enchantment creature you control to its owner's hand, or return target saga from your graveyard to your hand. So you can bounce one or you can return one. So that's actually not bad either as a freebie. And again, getting to reset your sagas or whatever could be good. Advancing your sagas if you're trying to get them to the creature side on a lot of them in this set could be also good. It kind of plays along. It probably is a key part in some type of enchantment deck as well. I will say it is a 1/3, so it's not great just on its own. And if you don't have any sagas out, it has kind of limited uses. But if you do, and there are a lot of sagas to be played, could be pretty surprising. And it is a rare, so I guess Wizards at least believes in it. I'm going to just say, though, I'm only lukewarm on this because I don't know how important this type of card or useful this type of card is in those decks yet. But I'll probably sample or experiment with a couple of copies just to see what's up. Generous Visitor, 1 green, 1/1. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. See, now this is the type of 1-drop we were looking for this style of deck, right? Now, every time you play an enchantment, you're like, boom, start putting counters on things. And when some of your creatures are also enchantments, that's even better because now you can start using your creatures to pump things while also building your board up. This card's quality. Now, again, the enchantment decks have to be a thing for this to matter, but if they are, this is definitely going to be a key piece. All right, we've got Ryu, a Storm's Edge, 2 colorless, red-white, 3/3. Legendary creature, human samurai, has first strike, so not bad. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you get to untap it. If it's the first combat phase of the turn, there's an additional combat phase after that. All right, so this is actually pretty sweet because you get a decent creature, 3/3 with first strike. But now, whenever you do attack with something by itself, it automatically untaps and you get to attack again. So that's actually pretty cool. I'm beginning to wonder if the plan for these decks is just to play as a red-white aggro deck normally, but have some card to say, okay, now when I'm setting up the kill turn, or maybe you swept the board and I only have 1 or 2 things, now me attacking with just a singular thing at least gets some benefit or whatever, possibly. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how these decks come together, though. This card actually looks pretty sweet. And I figure we'll just cover all the sagas because they're here, so why not? So we have The Fall of Conda. First chapter is exile target creature and opponent controls with mana value 4 or greater. So that's actually reasonable. Chapter 2 is each player gains control of all permanents they control. Nice. Chapter 3, exile this saga, then return it, flipped. The backside has Defender. It's a 1/3, and when it dies, you draw a card. I mean, here's the way I'm looking at this. Like, worst case scenario, it's a sorcery speed, destroy creature, power 4 or greater, or mana value 4 or greater, right? So if that's a thing, cool. If we're going bigger in the format, this is a reasonable removal. So that's kind of the first thing. But then it just becomes a 1/3 that's going to get you a card. So you're basically paying 3 mana, remove a 4 CC thing or more, get a 1/3 that blocks some amount of damage, and then you get to draw a card. All right, so that's not bad for 3 mana. It just comes over a period of a few turns. Don't know how much I like this, honestly. It's not bad, but I'm not super excited about it. All right, this one's a rare, so we're hoping it's better here. The Restoration of Aiganjo, 2 colorless and a white. Search your library for basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand. Pretty normal. Chapter 2, you may discard a card. When you do, return target permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, that's pretty sweet. Then the backside is a 3/4 Vigilance. Whenever Architect of Restoration, which is what it turns into, attacks or blocks, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. Oh, man. Yeah, this is really good. This is really good. Like, what I like about it is you get a sizable creature, 3/4, that can also produce extra things. And we have a couple of enchantment decks already on the channel that were playing stuff that was making spirit tokens or whatever, right? Hallowed Haunting and stuff like that. So if this is even playable, just using it to search up a plains to keep you on time and get a reasonable creature after the fact seems pretty good. I'm kind of into this. I think this could be playable in the right decks. All right, Hideki Sugu consumes all. Colorless black red saga. Chapter 1, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. Ooh, that's pretty strong. That's real strong, actually. Now, how powerful? I don't know, but could be a quality sideboard card, potentially. Then 2 is exile all graveyards. Okay, always like having that on a card. And then 3, it exiles returns as Vessel of All Consuming. It's a 3/3 trample, which is funny. 3/3 trampler. All right. Whenever Vessel of the All Consuming deals damage, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever Vessel of All Consuming deals damage to a player, if it has 10, as if it's dealt 10 or more damage to that player, they lose the game. Okay, so technically 3 attack steps. This card just kills your opponent, assuming it connects. Probably going to be pretty difficult to make that happen. But yeah, I don't hate this. Like the fact that you get a little mini sweeper, so to speak, take care of those turn 1 or 2 plays. Cool, you get to wipe those out. The super low to the ground, hyper aggro things that are playing a bunch of 1-drop stuff get punished by this pretty heavily. Removing graveyards could actually be pretty big too. So yeah, this card actually has a lot going for it for 3 mana. I don't really hate this at all. All right, looks like this was a saga heavy day because there's several more. All right, so Tribute to Hirobi, a colorless and a black. The first 2 chapters are the same. Each opponent creates a 1/1 black rat rogue creature token. And the third one is it becomes Echo of Death's Wail, flying haste 3/3. Whenever Echo of Death's Wail enters the battlefield, gain control of all rat tokens. Whenever Echo of Death's Wail attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you draw a card. Okay, so you give your opponent a couple of rats over 2 turns. Then on the 3rd turn, you're like, okay, well now I have a 3/3 and I get to have all your rats. And then when I attack, I get to draw a card. This is weird. This guy like a roundabout way to get to draw some cards or whatever with these rat tokens. But it's so cheap. It's still worth it. You know what I mean? You play this on turn 2, set things up, you get your 3/3. Like, I'm still into that. I'm still into that. Yeah, I'm going to give this a thumbs up. I think there are some ways we could make this work for sure. All right, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Oh, so Fable of the Kiki-Jiki, if you will. 2 colorless and a red. First one is create a 2/2 red Goblin Shaman creature token with whenever this creature attacks, create a treasure token. That seems pretty good. Chapter 2, you may discard up to 2 cards. If you do, draw that many cards. Also of quality. Then the backside is Reflection of Kiki-Jiki 2/2. Pay 1 and tap it. Create a token that's a copy of another target non-legendary creature you control, except it has haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. I kind of like a lot of what this card's doing. Like getting a 2/2 that could also possibly ramp you with giving you a treasure. You get to discard junk cards, replace them with things that you might be able to cast. And then it comes back into play as a 2/2 that easily could just be copying your best thing every turn. This is kind of nice. I like what this is doing for several reasons. Do I think any individual part of it is super powerful? Not really. But I do think just like as a package, this is fine for 3 mana. All right, it looks like that's it for day 5 of previews. Looks like we covered everything. There's a lot of cool cards. Like this seems to be a trend every day so far with this set. It's like there keeps being like another neat thing and another neat thing. But we've kind of reached the point in the preview season now that we now are starting to see some of these decks come together where we're talking about like the samurai decks, what colors, the styles of decks, they're going to be able to play, finding what we can do with vehicles. That's a thing, and pilots and whatever. We're getting more of those kind of fleshed out. We're seeing what some of the big spells are going to do in this set. So it's kind of cool slowly getting to see all this come together. Usually feels like a preview season's a bit more disjointed or whatever, but now I feel like This has been a fun exploration, and now, as we're starting to review these cards, we're going, okay, but we know this other thing exists. We know we're going to be able to do this now, right? So that makes it all more interesting. So yeah, as much as I'm not necessarily hyped about Kamigawa itself as a plane, I am really looking forward to the set so far. But let me know down below what you think about all this, or were there cards today that really excited you? Any that you're looking forward to building decks around? I think that could be a fun discussion too. But as I gotta ask, please, if you haven't checked it out yet, check out our memberships here on the channel. If you'd love to support me for as little as 99 cents, super appreciated and be really helpful. Also though, if you can't do that, please consider just liking this video, because that helps it get around, because preview videos aren't going to draw as well as some of my gameplay videos, so every little bit you can do helps, especially if you share it. But at the very least, remember to like, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. Hit the notification bell. That's super awesome. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.